how to develop a great career and why talent development is vital. Ladies and gentlemen, for the following panel, please welcome John Barron, Invoice to Cash Process Lead at Johnson & Johnson, Olivier Theodore, Learning and Development Manager at Office Depot, Diana Moraru, and Collections, Claims and Disputes Controller at Coca-Cola Hellenic, Nenka Georgieva.
Right, well, are we all comfortable? Yes, good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also well aware that it's a late lunch today, so we'll try and make up a little bit of the time if we possibly can. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be working with the three of you. We've got a number of questions, obviously, on the screen. There's only one thing. Has anybody got the clicker on there? Okay. Let's see if it works. Yes. Okay. Well, we've got a number of questions which we've got as a framework, but, ladies and gentlemen, this is a session very much for you as well. And what we would love to try and get doing from the panel itself is to actually get a discussion going amongst the group itself. I'm going to actually stray away from the question which is up at the moment, and I'm just going to start the ball rolling by asking all of you just please to comment on one question. Okay? And for me, it's a nice easy question. From the point of view of your career over the last 12, 18 months, what's gone well?
Thank you very much. So randomly, I'm the first. I really like your question because many times we focus on what we could do more, and sometimes it's good to look back and see what went well. Briefly, I would say what's happening in Office Depot in Romania, in Cluj. And to sum it up, I think what went well was the fact that through talent development, we managed to support what the business is doing. My colleagues are here. John mentioned the 7 of us yesterday. So we implemented the new career path, and we could develop training and talent development curricula to sustain that. Also, one of their business strategies and objectives were to harmonize the processes. And again, I'm glad that we also cascaded this into harmonizing the technical trainings. And I think these are two major accomplishments as an overall umbrella. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Olivier.
And also for Johnson & Johnson, so I will say the last 18 months I will say so employee empowerment, which also results in boosting the employee morale as well and being more accountable for our team.
Nenka?
Okay, in Coca-Cola Hellenic, we only established our OTC 2 years ago. So ever since there were big changes happening, and actually exactly 1 year ago we got the endorsement for further expanding our scope and doubling our size in terms of people and processes. So now we have a big pool for talent development, for developing more people to step in the new roles, and this is actually what we're focusing in the past 12 months.
Thank you. I need longer arms on doing this job. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, education and training is one of the vital components of business development. It's often the case that, of course, somebody who's controlling a budget will say, education, training, too damned expensive. And so it's one of those things that when budgets get cut, get pushed to one side. But if I can, I'm just going to give you a little piece of advice to actually start the ball rolling, and that is to just bear in mind that one little expression, which is, if you think education and training is expensive, just ask, how much does ignorance cost? And if you actually think of it in that perspective, then hopefully you might actually get a little bit of success in terms of pressing your claim for actually going forward for education and training. Let me just ask one other question in terms of this while we're actually thinking forward. Is it your view that to send somebody on a course or a training event is regarded rather more as a bonus, it's a little present for the individual, or do you really expect hard work out of your staff when they come back and a real change in the way that they actually can perform their jobs? Sorry, but I think we better go logically down the row here again.
It's okay. I think it's a mixture of two factors. One is the business outcome. What do you expect that person to apply when coming back to their team and their daily job? And in the same time, all the people who attend a training or a course should be motivated, and it should be an inner motivation. And if they see that benefit, they will apply afterwards.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Oliver?
For me, I will see it as a reward somehow, because we will need to reward the most engaged employees. So, and by assigning them to a training, so it's kind of a benefit for them, because they will say, okay, we are believing in you and we are investing in you, so we will be rewarding you this way. And usually after, it's always due to the follow-up. So because when the employee go to the training, we need to make sure whatever they get back, we are able to apply it to the real life circumstance. So it's both for me.
Okay, I will always say both, but actually it depends on various different things. We are currently having a lot of onboarding programs which are different. We're having also ongoing trainings which as well have a different objective, and it needs to be tackled case by case. In our company for years we have been deploying the train-the-trainer approach, which is very, very important. If you only are allowed and you only can send 1-2 people, that those are really the right people who can after that transfer further the knowledge. Sometimes it can be the brightest person, but he just has no training skills.
Yeah. It's all right, the team is working really well. It's a conveyor belt process almost here. Yeah, this concept of the importance of education and training is absolutely vital. And again, if I may, a story from long, long, long ago when I was a very young trainer. And let me just put it this way, it may be a mind-blowing thought, but I delivered my first training program for what was then the National Provincial Bank in London in 1968. It's a long time ago, probably before the time that most of you were actually born, I think, in this room. But I always remember the question, asking a colleague the question, look, okay, we use the words education, we use the words training. But what's the distinction between the two? And it's one of those things which you actually put that question to yourself. It's a very difficult one to actually explain. But let me just put it into the format of a little story. And please, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody here. If I do, I apologize now, but it will bring home the point. Imagine that you are a young mother or a young father with a child, a couple of children, let's say somewhere in the region of about 10 and 12 years old, and you were being a good parent. At the end of the day, when the kids came home from school, you sat down and said, okay, Jane, what did you do at school today? Okay. Now, if she said to you, Mummy or Daddy, we had a period of sex education today, you might be a little bit surprised. You might be a little bit shocked, but then when you thought about it, you might say, well, yeah, the school is doing a good job in terms of preparing this young person for when they come to adulthood. But if, on the other hand, your 12-year-old son came home from school, and you said, what did you do at school today? He said, we had a period of sex training, then you'd be worried. Of course, the point is that education is the scaffolding on which training is actually hung, and which actually develops the ability of the individual and the organisation. Now, let me just ask one other question at this particular stage, and I'm sorry we haven't got it on the screen. When you're actually sending people on courses, or perhaps you yourself are going on a course as a delegate. How many of you actually are briefed before you depart from the office to go on that training event by your management as to what you should do to prepare yourself and what is expected that you will come back knowing when you come back from that course? Those of you that do have a formal process for preparing people to go on courses, can you just sort of stick a hand up just for the moment? Nobody? One. Is there any one person in this room who actually prepares people to go on training programs? Okay. What about when people come back from a course? How many people do you go put through a formal debriefing process as to what they've actually benefited from that training event? Anyone? Yes? No? Well, at least we've got 2 or 3 hands. Okay. What about your organisations?
In Office Depot, I think it's important, first of all, for people to be aware. Sometimes they go through a formal process, sometimes it's more informal. I think the formal process helps to have a structure, and when you have a structure, it's more likely to implement things. But many times, even if it's informal, it works. And I think we have a mixture of both of them. Oh. Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
It's controlling itself.
And as I was saying, here it depends a lot on how the Learning and Development Department works with the internal clients. Because once the management team is aware of the benefits of preparing their people before attending the training, and what are their benefits to discuss everything after the training, and they realize it's in their own benefit overall, there are higher chances for them to do that. Thank you.
For us, we don't have as such a formal way to do a debriefing, although I think a couple of weeks ago we went through the best practice initiative with Mark, and we did plan to have a formal debriefing session, but somehow it's not happened yet, so I hope when I come back I will make it happen. But still, we just talk to the people on the floor and understand what's happened on the training, did they enjoy it, and what's any feedback, or what can they apply to the day-to-day. So we do have it, but not in a formal way.
Okay, with us, most of the trainings are actually linked to the individual development plans of the people. And we tend to avoid to be putting just trainings in the individual development plan. It's usually a particular competency we want to develop, and there are other actions related to this. It's not only the training, but you also need to deliver a project or participate in a full training program so that you will develop certain competencies and become a team leader, for example. I can give a very good example from our Lean Six Sigma projects that we're running, that prior to the training we need to pass certain online e-learning modules. We need to be ready with the project charter to have decided what exactly the project will be, who are the project sponsors and all this. Then we go to the training, and after that we need to make sure we complete the project.
Any specific thoughts from the floor in terms of this? Any good examples which work really well, or any disaster stories? None? Absolutely nobody? Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, education and training is damned expensive. You, all of us, have got to make sure we get the best possible result and the best possible value. And training should be part of a roadmap, carefully planned, structured in advance, to actually develop the individual to actually meet in terms of your manpower planning and future needs. Okay, now we've got a number of questions on the score. Oh, it's popped up again. It's been driving itself from the back without pressing any buttons here. Where does the impetus for your high-level emphasis on training come from?
Well, as mentioned, maybe we generally say training, but yes, there are development programs, and training is let's call it maybe the classical method. For Office Depot, I think the emphasis comes from attracting and retaining the people, and it is a differentiator on the market. As Tom mentioned earlier, people are number one issue when it comes to companies in different industries, different countries. But the flip of the coin is the fact they can also be our biggest asset. And I think this drives the focus on learning and development and training. Thank you.
Gosh, we're doing well here. Thank you very much indeed. Again, the whole point here is that, of course, one of these things, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, is that education and training takes place in different ways. There are different standpoints of individuals, different preferences as to how people learn and want to be educated. Also, at the same time, what has been found in this part of the world, again, especially in parts of Slovakia where there is high unemployment, money is not necessarily the greatest driver which is actually making people really want to stay with an organisation. But on the other hand, skills development is a very, very big plus. Now, we've got a number of people here. In actual fact, I know we've got some people here from Slovakia. We've got the ladies from Lenovo, for example. What's your feelings, ladies, in terms of what is actually happening in terms of education and training, and how do you feel about the importance of education and training in terms of your development, your career development? Volunteer? Come on, where are the ladies from Lenovo? Ah, good.
Hi. I think for Lenovo I can say that it's a shared service center, so we are learning on the way. So at the beginning everyone was sent on the courses, but maybe they found out it's not so beneficial. So now it's more selected process, and I think that we found out that what's even more beneficial is sometimes at the workplace it doesn't cost anything, and job shadowing that a person can learn from other colleague, it's very good.
What's this? Thank you. What is the feeling from the floor here as to just how successful the on-the-job training is? Does it work or doesn't it work? Any volunteers? Again? Yep.
We apply it a lot, and yes, it does work. The efficiency that it has, that sometimes people are using one or two tools. However, there's another big variety which can make their life easier. But the mentor was not acquainted to this one, and they did not show it. So this is why, on top of the on-the-job learning, we apply from time to time different ad hoc workshops based on the needs. And whenever we see that certain people are struggling with a particular topic or a particular case, we just organize a workshop. Like, for example, I've personally done a couple on rebates, which are affecting AR, AP, different processes. And as we say in our organization, it seems that nobody knows this process end to end. So we've done a lot of workshops to be helping the awareness around this process and how it affects separately AP, separately AR, cash allocation, etc.
On-the-job training is one of those classic methods of education and training which has been used for generations. It is a system and a methodology that works very, very well, provided, of course, that it is carefully monitored by management. Because there is a danger that if you're teaching particular skills, rather than, if you like, a codified process operation going from A to B to C to D, there is a danger that if you ask somebody to train somebody else, the trainer may have developed their own methodology for actually carrying out a particular task. But it may be that what they're actually doing, if you're trying to get from A to B to C to D, stages are actually left out of that process. So it's vital, of course, that you're actually monitoring what is going off. Okay, so that is a process that works. From that point of view, how successful do you think that the formal course training methodologies are by comparison with the on-the-job training? How many of you have a program of courses or trainings that you will go through within the company before somebody moves up to the next stage?
For us, we did put a structure in place, but because we are just like in a pilot stage, so we are unable to assess if it is successful or not. But my understanding is by doing a formal training courses in place, so I will make sure that a number of people, or the ones which have been selected to go to these courses, have the basic covered. And this, I can be sure on this, and if they do apply it or not, is another question which we have to follow up on. But at the end, so the formal courses is, we are make sure, because with the trainer, you know, we are able to validate what the topic should be on the course. And this, when the participant will go through the courses, so I will, or at least I believe that the other topic which was discussed prior to the training has been covered and has been integrated. So this is like, I think ticking the box for me, and this is good for me.
So we refer to it as two different programs. So on one hand, we have on-the-job training for people that are joining the company, and as I mentioned earlier, one of our key focuses was to harmonize on-the-job training regardless of processes and countries we work with. And we always validate everything with our colleagues from operational teams from two perspectives. One is the structure, so to make sure that we have a cohesive structure of the training itself day by day, and also the content, because you always have updates, new procedures and so on. And on the other hand, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have the career path in place for the operational teams, and depending on the career path, we make sure going from one stage to another, we can offer a package of development tools for each of them. And our focus is to do this proactively, so to prepare the people up front before applying to a position. Thank you.
The only thing I can add on top of this is that in Coca-Cola Hellenic we have worked a lot on, apart from the deployment trainings that we have during the transition, after that we were struggling with the onboardings whenever new joiners were coming in. So we managed to create a very detailed onboarding plan with several different online courses and on-the-job learnings. And this all was finishing with the knowledge validation at the end, which each of the new employees was supposed to perform, based on which we're taking the decision whether he's ready to perform or he needs further training.
Any other ideas that we can actually bring forward to develop the career structure? Yes.
I can just say that in Coca-Cola Hellenic we utilize a similar model because we are hiring students to help us during the summer, which is the peak of our season. This is where people drink the most of Coke and we have the highest volume of sales. So this year we hired 10 people to be helping us in cash allocation, and we managed to retain 4 of them to stay with us after the season. So we're continuing on this practice.
Just a thought on the way back. We have different initiatives in promoting basically the career. One of them is the internship program as well, and we do this every year. And we also have different initiatives. For example, we have Join Us for a Training Day, and this actually open training day. As you mentioned earlier, and I really liked, Martin, your example for young students who just come for a training, see how it's like, and we have a very good success rate on this because many of those young students actually applied for a job in Office Depot later. And also we have another initiatives in working with universities, and together with some of Mark's team as well, we delivered some presentations and trainings for students university, and making the collection maybe sometimes the missing link between the theoretical studies and the practical experience in companies.
Yes. So yes, for my experience, we are not so advanced. I can see like a Coca-Cola or Office Depot, but my thinking like if I want to promote OTC as a great rewarding career, so it's just by definition like the OTC processes is covering a lot of departments like sales, marketing, distribution, accountancy, finance. So basically, if we are able to put the emphasis on all these departments, so to say to the person, yes, you come to OTC as a starting point, yes, you may take just the phone and collect some cash, which is at the end may not be so exciting, but if you want to develop and grow your career, you can also investigate all those departments, which you are by definition in touch, because you will be at a crossroad of all these departments, even if you want to move to the distribution channel, because you will understand, yes, you are just collecting invoices, but at the end, there was a process to get this invoice generated, and there was a product behind it. So if you have the skill and the understanding to go further and understanding what the step was taken to take the product from the shelf to the customer, this can be also rewarding, and you can even be a greater collector at the end if you understand all those processes. So yeah, I think it's always good to put the emphasis on, yes, you are just collecting, this is like one of the day-to-day job, but you should go over this after 1 or 2 years, because when you understand the process of collection, you should think about understanding everything behind it.
Sorry, going in the wrong direction.
I just want to share one more very useful initiative we are running in Coca-Cola together with the bottler, together with the operation. The program is called SWAP, and what we do is everybody is applying for different positions in different departments. It can be a line operator, it can be a microbiologist, it can be a regional sales trainer, it can be various different positions. Then on lottery we draw certain people, and they are able to work shadow the respective function for 2 days. And this has turned to be extremely efficient, extremely interesting. We had in credit management a person coming from sales to see how we work and why are we blocking his orders and what we're doing with it. It was very successful, and I myself am looking forward to going and work shadowing the sales trainer next month.
Okay. Questions really from the viewpoint here. Let's put it out very much to the floor as well. What can we all do to actually, as corporates, engage students? Okay, one of the suggestions is to visit universities and deliver guest lectures. How are you doing it? Do you do it? No?
Yes, we do. And it's very useful because the guest lectures or the people who deliver these are from operational teams, so they have experience and they can give very practical examples.
And what about from the floor? How many of you actually do this as a technique to attract young people? Okay. What sort of things do you do, sir?
We are in the same.
We're in the same.
Oh, right, okay. I do apologise. I should have known that you were sort of working mutual cooperation here. Okay. Guest lecturers. Okay, yes, great technique, provided, of course, you've got people who are effective speakers. I would imagine. Yeah. Good. Delighted to hear it. So, next one is set up short-term visits and internments to companies. Do you do that? Yeah. How many of you are actually taking interns? in your organisations. Okay, what sort of roles would you use an intern in?
It's mainly in finance, so FP&A on the credit side. IT we struggle with. Not so much in accounts payable and P2P. But our big challenge is the competitive landscape for someone with a business degree going into credit. They're at maybe a good career path and it may be a very enjoyable job, but there's a competitive disadvantage on salary.
Yeah.
They can attract a higher salary with a business degree in another department.
Yeah.
Which goes to the full circle about what Tom was talking about earlier about cutting costs. When people ask you to cut costs, everybody wants to hire students, but no one wants to pay for them when they graduate.
But of course, one of the other challenges which I've experienced here is that, especially at job fairs, many of the recruiters will say to me, okay, what sort of people are people looking for jobs in? Okay, they're graduates, they want a job in management. And the recruiter will say, well, what sort of management expertise have you got? Well, I've got a degree in management. What have you managed? Well, nothing, but I want a job as a manager. You know, expecting too much too soon. Is this a general experience?
Yes.
Yeah. And so consequently, what has got to happen perhaps is to change the mindset of the students themselves to realise that there's a lot of expertise in the businesses which they've got to learn from. Okay.
Can I just add very quickly to that?
Yeah.
There's a very famous web search engine, which I won't give their name, it has a big operations in Dublin. And up till 2 years ago, their minimum requirement, including the receptionist, was a 2.1 degree. So you can imagine, I don't know the stats, but I hear what I hear through the grapevine. You can imagine their turnover rates and their retention rates and the quality of people that they have, and career development is most interesting.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is the balance is very important.
Yeah, yeah. You've got to put square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes is really, I think, the thing. And of course also to provide a job experience for people in a role that they're actually wanting to develop in. Okay. What can corporates do to actually create a recognisable career path? Do you all have recognisable career paths for young people? Just a yes? Or do you want to comment? Any comments?
So, yeah, just shortly, we do have, and my colleagues from the operational teams can confirm, it really works well. And what's most important is to sustain the career path. So not only to create them and to announce, but to actually offer support in implementing it.
Thank you. Mark, has this one been set up on the system? This pile of questions? Do you want to vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now is your moment. Oh no, sorry. Okay, we can't. It's all right. You know, this is one of those challenges of doing a job like this. You know, watching the flag signals that are either coming on pieces of paper through the door here, or the floor manager at the back who's waving his arms. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be going for. We've got one more session, and then we're going to be going for lunch. And as I promised, I said that we would try to keep things reasonably to time. But before we do close this particular session, any comments or further observations or questions from the floor, please? Sir, can we have a microphone?
Is it microphone? Yeah, in... There again. Small switch. Where's the switch?
Hello? In Sheffield, we work with Hallam University, and they, MBA students, they have something called Venture Matrix, and what they do is they go out to businesses and say, have you got a project for us? And they then will advertise that project. They will form little businesses of 4, 5, 6 people and take on that project over a 3-month period. We've used them a lot. They've done marketing programs for us, they've done research for us, we've had students from lots of different countries as well, and they've actually just got some experience of working in business for a 3-month period. And also there's a great outcome at the end of it.
Super. This again is one of those things in Central and Eastern Europe that unfortunately universities are not terribly good at actually taking on projects as a means of earning money to finance their own organisations and their own development. So if we may, you and I need to talk because we've got a lot in common. I was born in Sheffield. It's a small world. Okay, any other questions and observations, please? No? I think it's the prospect of getting a little bit closer to lunch. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you also to all of my panellists for taking part in this. It's been a great pleasure and a privilege working with you, and thank you.